Hey guys, myself Rakesh and welcome back to my channel. In the previous part of API in UiPath series, right, we have in the API integration series we have learned what is an API, right? Just to recap, we'll have a quick recap. So we have seen how what is an API and how that works in the background. So in the previous video I have explained from your laptop when you type an URL, the URL is converted to a HTTP request from the browser will do the job, and then the browser is creating a HTTP request having a header, having a body. So all this we have learned in the previous video, and then it goes to the server, and from the server, once the HTTP request, this is the main keyword you should remember, from a client machine, from the laptop machine, from the laptop, the request has been sent to the server, which is known as the HTTP request, and from the server the data will come back to our laptop, which is known as HTTP response, right? So these are the two different keywords we have learned, and entire mechanism what you see, right, all this happens through the API. The API does the task of sending the data from the laptop browser to the server and fetching the data from the server back to the laptop wherein I finally see the Facebook page, right? So this is what we have learned. So I talked about status code in the HTTP response. I spoke about the URL and the verb.get. So how do I really implement in the UiPath? We are going to learn it. Okay. So remember these two keywords: HTTP request, HTTP response, status code, right? Get, verb. So what are all this, and how do you really implement that on UiPath? We are going to learn. So let's get back to UiPath Studio. Now, first of all, to do a HTTP request. So what is the job of this HTTP request? Any data that I would like to get from the server through the API call, right? I can request the data from the server and get the output. Here in this example, it was a simple example of facebook.com, just to have an understanding what the API call looks like. But again, in practical scenarios, you don't open a page or something like that. You require some data from the page, right? You require some data for the page. For example, if I ask you, hey, you need to collect the weather data. What is the current temperature of the city? What is the maximum humidity, maximum temperature, minimum temperature? For that, what you do, you generally go to a website and then try to fetch the data. So in this example, to understand API, and how do you do a API call from UiPath? First of all, what you do, you log into a website called OpenWeather. Okay, so there are multiple such public endpoints for API request. So go to this openweather.org. Okay, we'll do step by step. So what you do, first of all, on your browser, type OpenWeather and go to this specific page. Okay, there is a weather API, so just click on it. Okay. Alright, so you have got lot many things. You don't have to worry about it. All you do here on the browser, I'm going to provide the link in the description. All you do, just type current. Okay, just type current and hit on enter. Got it? So type current here. This is the URL. I will provide this URL on the description of the video. So once you do this, you will be landed to this specific page. So this page has got lot many things. Okay, so you will be completely confused which one to use, right? So what you do, once you are there on the page, on the right hand side there is something called built-in API request by city name. Look at this, built-in API request by city name. So this is what you need to click. Okay, so once you click, see, again, don't scroll up or scroll down, you will be confused. This is a hyperlink, just it will take you to the entire page having lot many things. Okay, so the moment I hit on city name, it will just bring it down and show you the required API endpoint link that you need for this exercise. Okay, so once you are there on this page, what is the next thing I should do? Now go back to the UiPath Studio. The very first thing you do, go to the manage packages. Okay, and then go to official and type UiPath web API. The moment you type search here UiPath web API, UiPath.web API. Okay, So the moment you type this, it will automatically show you. If not, hit on the official. Okay, I did not type the spelling properly. UiPath.web. Okay, so web API activities. This is the one you need to install and save. Okay, so once you do that, what you find. So I spoke about two important things, right? The HTTP request and HTTP response. The same activity is available the once the package is installed. If you type HTTP, right, you find the HTTP request. All you do, drag and drop this HTTP request. So what I'm trying to do, the moment you drag and drop, this box will come. So what I'm trying to exactly do, in this current weather data, right, using this API, I can fetch any city in the world. What is the current temperature? What is the minimum temperature for the day? What is the maximum temperature? Lot many details around the weather. Okay, so I'll be able to fetch the data rather than generally if I ask you to fetch some data, you go to that website and then you scrape the data. You copy the data, you do the scraping, you do the get text and try to get the data. You write a workflow for that to scrape the data from the website. Rather than scraping the data, what if I have an API? Using this API endpoint, I can directly fetch the data to my UiPath Studio. And then whatever I would like to do with the data, I can do it. So this is more convenient rather than doing a data scraping, right? So rather than doing a data scraping, this would be more convenient. So what is this? Let's learn, okay? So once you open this, so what I did till now, all I did is drag and drop this HTTP request. Okay, let me enlarge the screen a little more so that it will be visible to all. Okay, now in this one, what I will do, hit on the configure button. Okay, now it is asking you to provide the endpoint. What is this endpoint is all about? The every API call, so every site will have their own this kind of a page where they would mention the API link and all that. So every site will have different thing. Now for a learner, this would be a site where you can practice, you can give it, try to learn. So here what I'm doing, I'm going to copy the endpoint URL. Okay, so copy until the question mark. Okay, let me enlarge this slide a bit. So what I'm doing, I'm copying it till the question mark, not the q. These are the parameters, so I'm not copying any parameter, just until here I copied it. Okay, so ensure you are in the city name. Okay, only when you click on the city name, this you will see. Otherwise there are different procedures, you will be confused. On the top there will be different ones. Okay, so don't be confused. So if you see, if I scroll up, there will be multiple API links where you will be confused. For example, this one is a different format, latitude, longitude. So always click on the city name and from here you should start. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, copy this, go back, and in the endpoint I'm going to paste it. Getting it? So I pasted the endpoint. The moment you do this, the preview URL will automatically populate. This much is clear what we have done. Okay, and why are we doing this? Rather than doing a data scrape and trying to fetch the weather data, temperature, humidity and all that, we are going to do this through the API. Through the API, I will directly send a request to the server, and from the server I will collect the data, right? So how that works, we are going to see just in few minutes. Okay, so this much is done. After that, you don't have to really do anything over here. All you do, there is something called request method. So what we are doing, we are doing a HTTP request, and in the request method, I spoke about get, right? There are multiple such methods: get, post, put, delete, head, options, patch, merge. There are a lot many options. So here I am going to use the get. There is also an option called trace. It is not here in UiPath, but again there are multiple options. So here the request method I am saying get. So in the previous video I taught you, right, when I'm doing HTTP request, I'm doing get. The verb I'm using get. This is the method. The same thing I'm trying to use it here. Simply I'm saying get. Request method, I've selected get. So this much is clear. Very good. Now nothing to do here. There is also something called accept response as. So any JSON, XML, custom, how do you want to get the data? So you don't have to worry about it, because if you read the instructions here, by default this data is collected as JSON. In this specific website, the data is collected as JSON by default. If not, you have an option even in the UiPath to define which way you want. Okay, so leave it as it is. And now let's click on the parameters. So once you learn this example, then you can do a lot of experiment. First goal is to let's do it in the normal way and understand how it is working. Then we can try to navigate and do other, try to explore other options. Okay. Now this much is done. Now I am going to add parameters. So what are these parameters? When I am doing an API call, the API call require few important things. For example, city name. Here the city name is important, right? So this becomes the input. So you wanted to fetch the data for a city. Let's say London. I want to fetch the data for London. I want to fetch the data for Delhi. So the city name has to be provided. So the API understands, hey, this guy who is requesting data, he only needs data for this specific city name, right? Because I'm using the API key based on the city name, so he needs the data only for the city name. So this parameters are required where I'm going to pass the value. So to pass the value, what you do here, the parameter code is written. So I'll copy the code. So it will be different for different websites. So here it is Q, or different API calls, it will be different. So you should always go through the documentation of that specific site, or if you do not have a documentation, you should request from the IT support of that specific site to give you API calls if they are available. Generally it will be chargeable, right? There will be a charge, but again, for practice purpose, we'll just use a free site just to see how these things are working. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on add parameter. Okay, add parameter, and I'm going to copy paste the parameter. Simple, this much is understood. So I'm copying the parameter, and the value I will pass without any double quotes or single quotes, simply write London, let's say. Okay, I'm citing. So go with this example, then you will change the city name. I will also change the city name later. Let's go with this example, London. Okay, while you are practicing, just follow how I am doing. So once you get the output, then try to make changes and see how things are working. Okay, so this is understood. Now next thing, so here what I'm saying, these things are required. So a couple of parameters are required, you can't skip them. So Q we have provided. Next thing it is required is your unique API key. You need a API key for this. So what I will do, I'll first copy the parameter name, which is, I'll hit on add parameter and copy paste the app ID. Now what is this app ID? You need a key to access their server, right? You can't just access just like that. You need a key. Like to access even Facebook, you need a password. That is your key. So without a key, you can't access something, right? Generally on a, if generally the site will ask you, hey, provide your authentication key. That's where I would give you the data. So here to get the key, what you do, hit on the API key tab. Okay, hit on the API key tab. Now this will ask you to sign in. If you have not created an account, hit on create an account. Okay, create an account, provide a username, whatever you want. You enter your email address, your password, repeat password, and accept all these agreements that are there, right? And then I'm not a robot, and create an account. So I have already done that. Okay, I have already done that. So I'll move back. So here I'm going to sign in. So once I sign in, what I did, I hit on the API key tab that brought to this page where it is asking me to sign in. If it is for the very first time, if you are entering this site, please create an account and then sign in. So once you sign in, it will show you the API key. So once you are signed in, for example, right now I got signed in. If I hit on the API key tab, it will automatically bring this page where I see the API key. So every person will have their own specific keys. So you can copy that. Go back to UiPath Studio, and here in the API ID, just paste it. Do not put any double quote, single quote, nothing. Okay, that's it. Done. So once I do this, so what I have provided, the required parameters I have provided: London, the name of the city, which is the Q code, app ID, this is the key to access the server. So it will go and hit this server, OpenWeather server, from my UiPath Studio, and this is the HTTP request is sent to the server with this parameters, and once it authenticates you through the key, and it will give you the data back for the London city, what is the current weather. So you can also, so rest of the things I am leaving it as it is. Okay, I'm not touching anything else, I'm just leaving as it is, that's all. So once this is done, if you hit on preview, the moment you hit on preview, this is the response that I have got from the server. So what is the response? In the response what I have, let me copy this entire data to a notepad, which will be wherein it will be easy to see the data properly. Okay, so you can see This is the entire data I have got. Weather, ID is 802, clouds. So it is for the London city. So the temperature is at 288.11. This is coming in Fahrenheit. So how to change that to degrees Celsius? I am going to show you. Maximum temperature, minimum temperature, maximum temperature, pressure, humidity, all these values are there. Time zone, and here it is having the city name London, code 200. I spoke about code 200, right? In the previous video, I have explained you. It will come with the status code. The HTTP response will come with the output HTML. So right now we are getting the output in JSON format. JSON, XML, HTML. There are multiple formats I can choose. So right now I'm choosing the JSON format. So here the status code is 200. That means it's okay, right? It's able to fetch the data. Okay. Now it's able to fetch the data. So what I'm trying to talk is this entire data which you have got. This is known as the JSON format. So what is a JSON format? In the JSON format, you would generally find there will be different things. For example, weather is a parameter, right? Cloud is a parameter. So visibility is a parameter. So what happens? This is called an object. In JSON, you call this an object, and the object will have multiple properties. For example, if I tell you, for example, I say iPhone, right? iPhone 13, let's say I say. So iPhone 13 has its own unique properties. For example, price, this much specific price, size, weight, and then what do you say? What is the memory size? What is the processor use? So every object will have its own specific set of properties. Similar way in JSON, anything that is there inside a curly braces, this entire thing is one object. So this is one object. Weather is an object, and within that object I have, within this open curly braces and close curly braces, these are the properties. These are the properties and these are the values. So ID is 100, 802, main cloud. So these are the values. Same way, there is again one object called main, and inside this object, once again I have multiple properties. Let's say temperature is a property and it has a value. Feels like is a property. This has a value. Temperature minimum is a property. So these keywords are important. Okay. So this main, anything which are there in open and close braces, this entire thing called, this one is an object. This is the object, and these are the properties within the curly braces. So what are the properties? Temperature, feels like, all these are properties. And what are the values of the properties? On the right hand side you have the values of the property. So this much is clear. So you should understand, when somebody says JSON object, many people will be confused if they are very new. What is the JSON object? So don't worry, JSON object means anything with which are in the curly braces. The main here it will be you will have a colon, and then there will be open curly braces and curly braces. So this will become one object. Similar way, if you see this one, so this doesn't have, this is a direct object which doesn't have a curly braces, direct object. So here if you see wind again has got two different properties, speed and DEG, and this become wind will be a JSON object. Similar way, cloud will be a JSON object, DT will be a JSON object. So these are the objects. So in a JSON file you will have multiple objects. So this is one object, this is one object, getting it? And these are the object properties and values. It should be very clear. Okay, JSON object properties and property values, getting it? So these are the three different terms. If you are well aware, then it will not be at all confusing. Okay, this will not be a confusing topic at all. Okay, now let's see a couple of more things. Okay, so I have got the data. This is how the data is coming, right? This is how the data has come. Now I was talking about few more things. What if the temperature was coming in which format? If you saw, this was coming in where is that? Here, temperature was coming in Fahrenheit. So let's say I would like to get in degrees Celsius. Again, for all such things, you should always follow back. You should go back to the API page and you should read. So here it is saying, if you look at mode, by default it will come in JSON format. If you need XML, you can use this parameter. For example, I need XML kind of a data or HTML kind of a data. I'll show one by one. Okay, let me copy this parameter mode. I'll go back to the studio. go to the request builder, and in the request builder I will add parameter. I'll paste this mode, okay, and then I'll go back to the website once again, and here it is saying, let's say I need HTML kind of a data, so I'll copy this value and I'll go back to the studio. That's all. You read the instructions from the source website, and according to the instruction you should do it, because they are all predefined. So if I hit on preview, now the data will come in HTML format. Do you see the data has come in HTML format? Getting it? Okay. Now generally JSON would be more convenient, so I will keep it to JSON. So I will delete this. Now let's say this was coming in Fahrenheit, right? The temperature was coming in Fahrenheit. Let's say I would like to change that to let's say degree Celsius. Again, there is something called units. Units are measurements, standard, metric and imperial units are available. If you do not use this units parameter, standard units will be applied. If you are not using the parameter, standard by default will be applied. Now let's say I want degree Celsius. So click on that learn more. You saw that, right? What I did, hit on the learn more, and here you will get an explanation. For temperature in Fahrenheit, use units as units equals to imperial. For temperature in Celsius, use units in metric. So I have to use metric. So I'll copy this value. It's very simple. Okay, it's very easy. Just that you should have little try it. So I need to add parameter. Let me paste the value and let me go back to the site and let me copy the parameter name, which is units. Done. Now if you just saw the in the preview, the value was in Fahrenheit. So what I will do, if I hit on preview now, because I have provided a parameter for degree Celsius, so what would happen, the value now has come in degree Celsius. You can see 14 degree dot 61, right? All this has changed it to degree Celsius. So like that, you have multiple options. For example, let me show you a couple of interesting things. Okay, that's where you will learn. So I'll go back. So language, okay, language. Let's see if it is coming in Hindi language or not. Okay, fun. So let's hit on add parameter. I'm going to hit on put the parameter name and then the value. So how do I know the value for Hindi? All you do, hit on the learn more, then scroll down. So here you have all the codes. Okay, now for Hindi, here it is HI. Okay, so I have to go back to the studio and simply type it HI. Done. Now let's see if the data is coming in Hindi or not. So hit on preview. Okay, so here you can see Kuch Badal. Do you see description Kuch Badal? So it has come in Hindi. Some of the data, the numbers will come in anyways in English. So here the name is London, right? It's saying London. Okay, so this is one of the fun tasks to do. Okay, this now let's play with something else. Okay, I'll remove that. Okay, I'll keep it to English. So I'll select this, hit on delete. Okay, now the next thing what we will do, we will try to, let me go back to the page, main page. So here am I in the main page? If not, hit on this hyperlink. Okay, now what I want to enter Delhi. Okay, so for Delhi, how exactly it should be written if you don't know, right? So let's hit on this ISO. Okay, this is not required. Let's go back to the studio, and instead of London, let me type Delhi. You can try with different cities. Okay, Delhi. Now hit on preview. Let's see what is the temperature in Delhi. So what is saying, 27 degree temperature, minimum temperature for the day is 27.05. okay, response status code is 200. That means it is able to fetch the data. Okay, name is Delhi. So getting it. So all these details are coming properly for us. Okay, so this much we have understood how this data is coming. So I'll hit on OK. All right, so I spoke about two different things, right? What is a JSON object? What is that? What is the JSON object? So JSON, if I ask you, hey, this is the JSON file or not, tell me. This is a JSON file, right? Start with the curly braces and will end with the curly braces. Okay, so this is a JSON file which will have objects, and within the object there will be object properties and values. So this is an object, and within the braces this has again object properties and values. object properties and values. Okay, so this thing is understood. Now let me show you, let me show you how this one exactly. So I got the data. So the HTTP request, the moment I run it will fetch the data. So once it fetches the data, first thing I would like to store it in the output, right? So there will be something called output here. Do you see output? Okay, so here is the output. Now here there are multiple things. You will go with the response content. So we need the entire content. So what I will do, I'll create a variable and give it a name called JSON string. Why I'm saying JSON string? The data fetched from the server, the JSON format, the format will come in the JSON, but again this is you can copy paste into a notepad. I mean, it's just a text but in JSON format. JSON format means, this is the JSON format what I just spoke. So it is coming in the JSON format, but again they are string, entirely it's a string. So if you see the variable, the moment you create a variable there, automatically the variable type has been assigned a string. This much is understood. So the data which is coming from the website will come in JSON format, but again this activity is going to convert, put that into a string format. The output of this activity will always remain a string format, because the moment you are creating a variable in the output panel here, whatever variable name you give, the output variable type will be always be a string type. Getting it? Okay. Now one thing we will be interested is, can I see that? Can I see this entire string? Okay, let's do it. You can use a message box, you can use a log message, whatever you like. Okay, so here all I will do, I will use JSON string. This is the output. Okay, now if I debug this or run it, right, what would happen? If you see, first thing, the HTTP request activity will execute. So you are getting a clear understanding, right? So that's why I'm going very slow, so that you understand entirely. So now the execution will start. Okay, started the execution. Looks like my studio is quite slow. Okay, so it has started. So HTTP request activity has been processed. Now it is coming to the message box, and the message box supposed to show me the entire JSON data. In the preview panel you saw the data, right? The same data will appear. If you see, the entire data has come in a string format. Okay, code 200, name DELHI, Delhi, London, whatever the city name you type. So entire data has come. Now this is a huge data, isn't it? This is a entirely huge data. From this entire huge data, how do I pull specific informations, right? For example, if I would like to pull only the temperature value, or let's say few data, temperature minimum, temperature maximum, pressure, humidity. So all this set of data I would like to pull. How can I do this? Right? How can I really do this? Okay, that is only important, right? So once you fetch the data, you want to write it into Excel file or whatever you would like to do with the data, you can do it. So how this can be done, let me show you. So let's go back to the studio. So until here this is clear, how the data is coming from the output. So for this there is an activity, because it is coming in entirely string format, and this string has got so many things. You can't do Control F and find, right? In UiPath you have to deserialize, so that every object, are there, like weather, what is the ID number, base, what is the base, what is the value, for main, what is the temperature. So there are different objects are there, JSON objects are there. So inside the object I have the object properties and the value. So to fetch that, you need an activity called deserialize JSON. So we are going very slow so that you understand. Okay, that's my intention. So I got the activity deserialize JSON. So once I have this activity, what I have to do, the output of the previous activity, right, JSON string, I need to type the variable name here, JSON string. So I got the variable name. Okay, now again this will have a, so what this will do, the entire string format what is there, it is going to convert all of them to JSON object. So I just spoke what is a JSON object, right? Few minutes back I was speaking. Anything which are there in the curly braces are the the main one is the before the colon. So this is the JSON object, and the entire thing within the curly braces for this object are the object properties. Getting it? So this is the JSON object, this is a JSON object, anything with a colon, right? JSON object, JSON object, JSON object. So these are multiple JSON objects available inside this entire set of strings. So what this activity will do, deserialize, is generally will convert that entire string format to JSON object, so that you will be able to access the objects in a different way. I'm going to show you that. So right now what I'm doing, I'll create a variable and I will name it as JSON object. Okay, JSON object. If you come here, if you go to the variable panel, you can see J object is created, variable type, automatically the moment I created a variable here. So this much is understood to you, right? So deserialized JSON is responsible to, just now we saw a message box showing the entire data in string format. So this JSON string will be converted into JSON object. And what is JSON object is, I just spoke about it, right? So it will convert. So it is still in string format. So in technical terms, in UiPath, it has to convert itself to JSON object. So when I convert it to JSON object, I'll show you the difference. Okay, don't worry. So let me use a message box. What I'm doing, I'm using a message box. Okay, now here if I type J object, JSON object, so now we using the above activity, we have converted the JSON string to JSON object. So I'll use this variable JSON object. Okay, so JSON object, then what I will do, I want to fetch a specific object. For example, what are the objects? Can you tell me? For example, the very first object is this one, right? So what I will do, let me copy this object with a double quote. Within the parenthesis, I am going to enter the value. Okay, so I copied the object name. Sorry for that. So here I copied the object name, and with the object name I am just pasting it. Okay, let me show you in a bigger window. Getting it? I got the object. So you can do it for any of the objects that are available. So let me do it for this one first. Okay, let's see how the output is coming. So let me hit on debug. Okay, okay. So you can see these two values were there, right? So now the value longitude, this was for London, right? This was for London. Okay, but again these two values have come, right? Longitude and latitude has come coordinates. This means coordinates. These two values have come, so you understood it. Okay, very good. Now what we will do now, why you have to use deserialization, let me tell you. For example, because of the JSON object, I am able to fetch the specific objects. If I use JSON string, and within the double quote, if I put that object name, right? So what see, there is an error. You can't do it with a JSON string. You can't do it. Only when once it is converted to JSON object, then you can fetch the data with this syntax. Okay, so that's why you should use the JSON object. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's pull what is more important for us is where is that? Okay, so what is more important for us is fetching this temperature data, right? So what is the object? All these object properties are there inside the object called main. So I should first fetch this data, right? Main. So let me copy this object name main, go back to the studio here. So I will show you how to do that. How do you write it to a data table? So once you write it to a data table, it's easy for you to write it to an Excel file. So here I put the first I should write the variable object, right? JSON object. JSON object, and then within the parenthesis I should put the object name. So once you put it, if you execute this one, okay, if you execute this one, what should be the output? What should be the output? So the output should show me all the data in the main. Okay, so you can see I got all the data: temperature, feels like, temp max, pressure, humidity. So all these things have come. Getting it? So in the JSON file, if I go back to the JSON file, so I pulled this object name main. So what happened? Everything has come. Now you have a question, Rakesh, what if I just want to pull only the temperature? How can I do that? I want only a specific value. Okay, for that the format is slightly different. So what you do, go back to the studio, and here I want to fetch only the specific data, right, which is temperature. So what you do, copy this object property name, copy, go back to the studio, and here I'm going to, within a double quote, I'm going to paste this is the format. Okay, let me show you slightly a bigger screen. So the object variable, then the first object, and then the object property after that. Okay, so this is the format. If I do this, if I let me run it. Okay, if I run it, it should show me only the temperature, the current temperature of Delhi. Okay, 27.05 degrees Celsius it is showing. Getting it? So this is how you fetch the date, specific data. Now you have a question, Rakesh, how can I write this data to a Excel file? Okay, so let me show you. The trick is very simple. All I will do, I will use a build data table activity first. You can do it different ways. Okay, there are different ways to do it. So this is one of the simple way. So what I am doing, I use a build data table activity. So here I am going to hit on data table, and let me do it only for two values. Okay, I'll not do it for all the values. So what is the first value? Temperature. Let's do it. Temperature. Okay, string value. Okay, fine. And then what other data we need? You can do it for as many you want. Just for learning purpose, I'm just keeping it simple. Let's say humidity, right? So I'll say humidity. Okay, this is done. This is again, keep everything in string values, fine, and the data table is created. Click on OK. So once this is done, next thing is you should create a variable called dt1. Okay, so I mean any name you can give. So data table variable is created. Now I need to add values to it. So what I will do, I'll use add data row activity, and here in the row, this is what you need to learn. So it should write into data table, and the values I will use the array row property. Okay, now here I will put a curly braces, and within the curly braces the syntax that I have written previously, right, JSON object, and then in double quote, within the parenthesis, I should first access what? I should first access main, right? So I should write this. The syntax are important, otherwise your entire project will fail if you do not write it properly. So main, right? And after that, what I want from main, I need two different values. So the first one is temperature. So I'll copy this and I'm going to paste it. Simple. So the first value has come, and then again put a comma. And the same thing, let me copy paste so that I don't have to write it twice. Okay, JSON object main, and then here it should be different one, right? And why there are double quotes? Let me know. It should be only single quote. Okay, done. Let's come here and remove this entirely, and then what value I need? I need humidity. So copying and pasting that preview is important so that you can play with the value. So copy and paste it into a notepad so that you can do all this. Okay, so this is done, putting a comma, and there are two different values I want to fetch, and all these two values will be written into two columns of the data table which I have built. Okay, first one is for the temperature, second one is for the humidity. It's going to write automatically through this activity. So once it's written, so you can write it to an Excel file or anything you can do. Let me use an output data table just to show you the data. You can use write range and all that. Okay, you know that. So data table and output data table. So I want to output dt1, and then I want to store the data into txt data table. I mean, it will convert the data table into text format. Okay, So once it converts, I want to see that output. So I'll use a message box, and in the message box I'm going to type the, what was the name, txt, right? Txt dt. Okay, that's all. So let's execute, let's debug it and see if the data dt1 is fetching the data, or if the dt1 is able to get the data or not. Let's see. Okay. So finally you can see there are two different values I have got. Temperature is 27.05 for Delhi, and the humidity, likewise you can fetch any n number of data. Okay, I'm just giving two different, humidity is 100%. Okay, so I'm giving only two different values, but you can do it for n number of things that you need from the JSON. Okay, whatever the object, whatever the specific. So I spoke, that's where I gave you the concept around JSON object, JSON object properties and property values. Okay, this should be, if you are clear with this, it is very easy to get the data. So this is the JSON object, these are the JSON object properties, these are the JSON object property values. Okay, that's all, very simple. So you got a complete learning from this video. I hope you have enjoyed this, and you must practice it, couple of more times, and see. I'm going to see if I can bring more such examples with different public APIs that we can use. I will try to bring them out and see if you can practice on more such things, and I will try to bring some of the advanced topics around this. So thank you guys for watching. We are going to meet once again in our next video. Please do support me. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel, guys, and please do stay up to date. I regularly update videos on my channel. I have got 500 plus content on UiPath alone. So you can imagine, on a regular basis I try to upload. So please do subscribe and hit on the notification icon so that you stay up to date with any content that I'm uploading onto my channel. So thank you guys for all the support till now. We are going to meet once again in our next content. Take care. Bye bye.